So there now follows the church discussion group and obstacle course. Well done for making it onto the stage, everybody. Let me turn first to those of you who were on the editorial committee who haven't spoken yet. So that would be... Oh, let me introduce everybody, shall I? David Thompson, Stephen Orchard, and Andrew Satchell, and David Jenkins, and by process of elimination, though we haven't talked yet, Dominic Grant and Anne Sardeson, who are going to share some memories and thoughts on Rejoice and Sing. And so, Andrew and David, what memories come to mind when you think of the creation of Rejoice and Sing?
My abiding memory is being surprised that I was asked to take part, to be honest. I was involved in youth work and everything else, but my abiding thing at the time, memory of the time, was that I wasn't totally convinced we needed a new hymn book. There were so many around. But I thought the decision's already been made. If there's going to be a new hymn book, I'm going to help make it as good as it can be. And my memory is from the entire committee, there was 16 of us, I think. My memory is that everybody shared that opinion. They wanted to make it as good as it could possibly be, and they worked to that end. There were differences of opinion over certain things which were included, which weren't, and all the rest of it. But it was a team working together in faith and good nature and everything else. And nobody, I don't remember anybody, and I'm about to other knowledge, but I don't remember anybody falling out with anybody during the meeting. There were difficult times, difficult discussions, but we worked through them. And we ended up with a book that was very good, I think, and it outrun the first print run, because there was only 2 editions on the first print run, and then you've got words only, and then you've got the large print and everything else. So I think we worked, and it achieved a purpose.
David, does that match your memories?
Oh, I think so, yes. We had a very eclectic committee. I thought the fact that we people with gifts in poetry, in music, in publishing background, in editing, and we just drew them all together. It was like a choir, folks. Different sounds, different in the way we approach things. Some of us were ministers of the church and were immersed in hymnody, if you like, and we knew the needs of the church, but the difficulty was, how do you read the signs of the times? We say hymnody's moved on. Boy, has it. Has communication moved on? So we were at one point in time. And, Iona music was quite popular at that time. We didn't sort of throw in loads and loads of Iona material. Teze, as Brenda said on that clip, she wishes there were one or two more Teze pieces. Since then, Australia, New Zealand, I don't know if you've got their hymn books, wonderful hymn books, which moved hymnody onwards. We had one or two in there. Brother, Sister, Let Me Serve You, from that genre. So it was actually trying to read what was needed to be forward-looking and exciting. But then, of course, as you heard earlier from David, we sang everyone through. Now, there were some rubbish voices. No, there weren't any rubbish voices. We were all wonderful voices. And we sang, we wanted words and music to fit like a glove. That's the phrase which I would use, fit like a glove. And to, have the right mood for the words. But how do good Christians all rejoice? One verse is Christmas, 2 verses are Easter. Where do you put it in the hymn book? We put it in Christmas. Did you sing it at Easter? Maybe not. You see, hymns, we do need to think about the words. And we on the hymn book, it was a great joy and a great to do that. And it helped us meet wonderful, gifted people. You know, to meet Paul Bateman and people like this with such musical skills. He's the one who brought us out Skellies, the kingdom of God is justice and joy. You know, wonderful words. And I hope you look at his other work within Rejoice and Sing. Yeah, I'll go.
Let me bring in David and Stephen on this one as well. Are there hymns that we have sung today, or other hymns from Rejoice and Sing that particularly take you back to those times?
Well, one could go on and on, but just to give one illustration, and this is actually going back to Alan Gaunt as it happens. I remember one piece of new material which we must have discussed. I think this would probably, no, it would have been in the main committee rather than just the words committee. We discussed it for about half an hour. And then I said at the end, well, I'm afraid I don't think there's anything here which isn't better said by Albert Schweitzer at the end of The Quest for the Historical Jesus. Now, that's, I suppose, the kind of thing that a church historian might say. At the next meeting, Alan Gaunt came back and he paraphrased those words from the end of Schweitzer's book, or Burkitt's translation of it, and that is in the hymn book, and Carol Micklem provided a tune. I should actually have mentioned Carol because we shall sing one or two of his hymns later, but as a musical supremo, if you like, he was marvellous.
I have to confess the Words Committee did not sing all the hymns. But we did meet, usually residentially, in a number of places beloved in the past but now gone, like the Windermere Centre. There were only 5 of us, so it wasn't a problem finding anywhere big enough. But we had to find a place that had a big enough table. What David has put out there is the basic collection. I've lost the picture I would have brought otherwise of a table, quite a large table covered with books of one sort and another, as we tried to pick our way through all the different versions which are there. And tribute has been paid to David Goodall. We can't pay tribute enough because he must have worked hours on his own putting all this stuff together, and we are all in his debt.
To all the 6 of you, what kind of hymn book is Rejoice and Sing? What picture of the United Reformed Church would you get from reading Rejoice and Sing and singing its hymns? Would you like some notice of this question? I'll come back to it in 5 minutes.
The first word that comes to mind for me is diverse. That it captures so much of the breadth of the United Reformed Church, and I'm conscious that it does so just at the time that the URC was kind of coming of age as a denomination. I mean, we've heard a little bit about why a denominational hymn book wasn't produced earlier on at a very early stage in the life of the URC. But I am conscious that it was pretty much about when the URC was 18 years old. And so to come to that stage of the reformed denomination's life, it seems to me a very apt moment in retrospect to be producing a hymn book and enabling that to be done with a very confident approach to recognising the unity and diversity that is represented within the strands.
Thanks, Dominic.
Yeah, I think what I would add to that is, for me, there's a braveness within Rejoice and Sing as well in its exploration of language and the way that it speaks of God. It's incredibly powerful today to hear from Brian Wren, and then to sing Great God, Your Love Has Called Us Here, and to hear the theology, the depth of theology that he was speaking of then in his hymn, and just to have those two next to each other was really quite overwhelming. And I was struggling to sing, not because I didn't agree with the theology, but because I couldn't actually manage to sing it for a little while. So I think there's a braveness in Rejoice and Sing that was amazing for that time, and I think it's inspired many of us, and I suspect Dominic will be the same as hymn writers now, to actually think, dig deep with your theology in your hymns. Don't be afraid, and don't keep it light and fluffy. Go deep.
Brian Wren's hymn, This We Can Do for Justice and for Peace, was in several hymn books. I published a hymn book way back from John Paul Press. We did it with him sitting there and in the room. And that was a hymn which stretched the boundaries, stretched the mind, made us think. And but the meter was like a bingo score. 3, 15, 20, it was anything. And this we can do for just some peace. We can pray, or answer the prayers that other people say. This we can do with faith and see it through, for Jesus is alive today. And he thought of the tune for that in the bath, I think. And Peter Cutts was sitting there in my study with him, and Brian hummed a tune. This we can do. Yeah, that's going to be the tune. And it became the tune. Peter Cutts, who had set it to music there, did a brilliant job with it. I hope we're still singing it. And if you don't sing it, use it as a choral reading. It's strong. It's a great asset to worship.
Is Rejoice and Sing something of its time? How has hymn singing in the church moved on since 1996?
Thing is, stood the test of time. I think we ended up with a hymn book which covered a lot of categories. So there was the peace and justice and peace section, which isn't in many books, if any. But it stood the test of time, and it's a sort of book where you go into a church, if they've got Rejoice and Sing, you don't need the supplementary books, because the songs you want to sing, or the hymns you want to sing, are in the book. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, there will be other books, obviously, but it stood the test of time rather than it's had its time.
I think one of the things we don't do now is sing psalms. And it's the psalmody section which is not had its day, but time has moved on. We've also lost choirs, church choirs, sadly, very sadly. And that means that, some of the four-part singing, which we have glorified in today and enjoyed, we are losing in local churches. So, there are some parts of that hymn book are going to be redundant. That's inevitable. But there's so much in it that is rich and which is timeless. I've been surprised at looking at future hymn books, new hymn books which should come out, that they've not picked up some of the best of our hymns. They're not there. The love of God is broad like beach and meadow. That's Fred Kahn's translation of the Swedish hymn. You don't see that in other hymn books. It's only in ours. There's quite a lot of hymns only in our book still.
One thing I would say is that increasingly I wonder about the survival of congregational singing, and I worry about it actually, and particularly because a lot of the music that you can get just by getting a recording is in fact a solo. And of course, the reason for that is obvious if you think about popular music generally. But I think the really important thing about Christian worship is that it's collective. It's not just a soloist, because we do go in for soloists, but actually that's not the principal purpose of a congregation worshipping. And I do have anxieties about that, particularly as the alternative seems to be traditional choirs.
I think Rejoice and Sing sits well alongside a lot of other things that are around. For me, I use it probably for about 50% of what we use in our worship, what I choose to use in worship now. Because there's a lot of other stuff that has equal depth, and there's new stuff and things like that aren't there. But I continue to say to congregations, I would be lost without Rejoice and Sing. But I don't only use Rejoice and Sing.
You asked if it would survive. Well, of course, it would survive. I've got shells of hymn books that have survived, but they're not all relevant anymore, and you can almost deconstruct them as you go through. I was looking at Songs of Praise. There's a magnificent tune. I tried writing some new words to it, a Vaughan Williams tune. The words were, "England arise, the long, long night is over." Now, I mean, Reform UK might like to sing it, but I don't think I'd get away with it in a congregation these days in our church. And there are other things. "With wonderful deathless ditties, we build up the world's great cities." You'd love to sing that, wouldn't you? O'Shaughnessy. But that's very much of its time for the 1920s when the book came out. And people will look at Rejoice and Sing and say, that's very much what the Right Reformed Church was like in 1978. But that doesn't mean its usefulness is over, any more than, Charles Wesley's originals books, their usefulness is over. No, some of it comes through. And the echoing David, because people like to sing together eventually, and singing together is at the heart of Christian worship, we will keep some things going, and we'll need to keep them going. And who knows, perhaps the singers will emerge when we're gone.